Good to see you. I always do this to my wine idols. How are you today?
Volume up a click here.
How are you today, sir?
We're good. We finally have winter weather. That's good. The vines are frosted a little bit. They're not dormant, so it's pretty quiet. We're working just pretty quiet in the vineyard right now, and pretty quiet down in the winery too. So it's kind of a time where we do catch up, a little painting. But we're doing great. Yeah, we're doing really good.
I guess Bernardo Maldonado is there, one of our dear friends from El Horreo de V Suárez. They always support our content. So, Bo, I guess my first question, I met you 5 years ago when you were here last time, I think, before the hurricane and before all kinds of challenges to the world. And we...
So we don't need them for there. Yeah, well, we could go places.
Yeah, that's true. When we could go places, that's right. Let me ask you about COVID. How's COVID in your region right now?
It's like every place else. It has a little bit of a swing up again because of winter weather. It's regular. We're moving into what the normal flu and cold season when the kids get. So the COVID, it's not bad. They're letting us taste inside right now, but they might make us move back out. Our biggest effect is when we had to close the tasting room, and of course our San Francisco tasting room is still closed too. So that's the biggest effect, but the winery is open and the visitors are coming. It's just appointment only now. So that's big.
Go ahead.
Some of the crews had the COVID, and it's la gripe nomás. We haven't had anybody get it bad. So like I asked Domingo, he was the first guy that got it, the vineyard crew, early in the first wave back in April. And I said, ¿Cómo pasó? El COVID. He said, la gripe nomás.
Okay, so nothing...
Yeah, it hasn't affected the winery operations. We're okay. And we do have to rely, with restaurants being closed around the world, it changes things a little bit. But so we had to pivot to a retail a little bit more to keep the wine moving and keep the lights on. But in general, we're toughing it out like everybody else. You know?
The other question about catastrophes, and I promise this is the last one, the fires. How did you guys do with the fires?
Well, the wineries, the structures, and the people were all fine. We sent all the civilians home. The fire came about 300 meters from one of our vineyards, actually like 200.
Wow.
But what happened with us is that I have worked with smoke before in 2008, several times before, in 2017 certainly. So we know it can't be fixed. So we made the very difficult decision after the first fire. There were two fire events. The first fire was out near Pope Valley in Lake Berryessa, and we got smoke contamination from that one. So we made the difficult decision really early that we couldn't make any red wine of the quality we want. So yeah, for the first time since 1973, I'm not making red wine. It's really heartbreaking. It's a tragedy. It's
incredible. And so we won't see Chateau Montelena reds for the 2020 vintage.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's very sad to hear, though. So let's get onto the interview. Let's talk a little bit about your career, and then we'll get onto Montelena. One of the things that I always ask is, can you recall that first wine that was sort of your first love, or a unicorn of a wine that really knocked your socks off, that made you think, there's something bigger here? Can you recall that?
Yeah, and it was actually before I even thought that I'd be in the wine business. And so I grew up in Southern California, and my father was an attorney, and he got into wine, and he had a bottle of Le Montellein from Bouchard, the real stuff. And my dad said, and I was probably 17, even before he even thought about buying a winery, but he was getting into wine. He goes, man, you got to taste this. And we're tasting this wine, just going, wow, this is amazing. And I think that's where, and it hooked him too, to make that style of Chardonnay. So I remember it was, and I don't remember the vintage, but I do remember very clearly Bouchard Parrot Feast had the wolf heads on there, and it was the Montellein. And that's what I said. And I was just a kid. I said, that is really something special. And then I think that, doing it just as a job, it never really, because I got into winemaking to pay for my skiing habit. I graduated from high school, and I basically started skiing full time, and I worked summer and fall at the winery. So I'd say that when I thought something special, but after I started making wine, I don't think there was any one pivotal wine that was, other than that very first one, when I said it's the magic in wine was in that first one. And after that, I was lucky enough, my dad would start bringing home, especially when we started the winery, and our wine, my dad started getting into wine, and of course I went right along with him.
That's so cool to hear, and obviously this is all very well depicted in Bottle Shock, the movie, your life. You're played by Chris Pine, right?
Yeah, no, that's what I joking around. He played me before he was Captain Kirk. Go and being tough and a good boss under pressure. So all the machismo, that's what I taught him.
All right, let's get into the winery because we have 5 wines, and obviously we want to get through them all, taste them. I also want to thank Carol Burke. She is somewhere around there. We have another good sommelier, Puerto Rican guy from Florida. So we have 5 wines, and while you talk about Montelena and how the project come to be, I just want to show the labels that we're going to be tasting. We got the Riesling 2017. This is an incredible white wine. Obviously, we're going to go to a very famous Chardonnay, winner of the Judgment of Paris, a wine that kind of put California and Montelena on the world stage, if you will. You know, to me, it's always Robert Mondavi and Montelena Chardonnay. Was it 73, the vintage that got the first spot?
Yep, the 73 was the wine, and the Judgment of Paris was in 1976.
Exactly. Then we're going to try this Zinfandel. I had never had it before. I cheated, and I tasted it a couple of days ago. Lovely, lovely wine. Then, obviously, Cabernet Sauvignon 2017. They're very well known for their cabs. And then we're going to go to the Piece de Resistance, which is this beautiful state cab. Hello to Patrick Burke, who just joined us. Tell us about Montelena. How did the project begin?
Okay, well, the first California wine boom was in basically 1860 to 1900, turn of the century. So after the gold rush, a lot of people that didn't find gold went back to what they did in the old country. So Napa Valley, you know, the guys from Germany and Italy and saw the potential of growing grapes here in California. So they started the wineries as farmers and for something to do when they didn't find gold. So by 1882, this winery was founded basically in the first California wine boom, where the people from San Francisco, like we see now, people with more money came up and started building fancier stone wineries rather than the wood ones. So the early days. So Chateau Montelena was founded in 1882. The building was completed in 1886. You know, they planted the vineyards first, of course. And so by 1890, 1895, it was a really big and very successful winery. It was called at that time the A.L. Tubbs Winery. It was founded by a guy who made his fortune selling rope in the age of sail. So it was very successful. It was by 1890, it was actually, I think, was bigger than Behringer, which was, you know, one of the big brands out here.
Yeah.
It was successful. But then Prohibition comes along. The old man dies.
Was it called Montelena back then, even before you guys bought it? Was it called Chateau Montelena?
Yeah, that's where it becomes Chateau Montelena. So Alfred Tubbs' grandson tries to make a go of it in 1932 to about 1939. And so during Prohibition, they called it Montelena Orchards. You know, not Mount St. Helena, Montelena Orchard. And then when they started the winery again in 1932-33, they called it Chateau Montelena. So that's when it becomes Chateau Montelena, is in the after Prohibition. But it doesn't work. And by 1940, they go out of business. So then when we got here in 1972, we called them ghost wineries. That the wineries had been abandoned in the 30s. So, you know, the roof had collapsed and they had a dirt floor and there was nothing here. And we had to replant the entire, I had 100 acres of vineyard and we had to replant the whole vineyard. So basically it was almost a start over project. You know, we had the empty building. Bob Trinquero Sutter Home gave us our name back for free. You know, they wanted to say, hey, it belongs there. So it was basically we started with nothing and we had to, you know, build a winery and replant the vineyards. And so, and that 1972 when we started, that's the same year I graduated from high school. So I came up and started working in the vineyard for a summer job. And I turned out, you know, because my grandparents were Irish immigrants. Both of them, my dad's mom and dad were from Ireland. My maternal grandfather though was from Norway and he was a farmer. So I had no idea growing up until I was, you know, 19 years old that I liked farming. It was just the craziest thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we started in 72 and I started working in the vineyard and then I got moved to the cellar for the harvest of 73. And, you know, my dad being a lawyer, he basically hired an all-pro team. Our first vineyard manager, John Roleri, the guy taught me the love of the land, how to farm. Our first winemaker was Mike Gergich, went on to have Gergich Hills, you know, helped us win the Paris tasting. Give him So my dad, not being a farmer, being a lawyer, he just put together a team of all pro guys, and kind of like a lot of sports teams, is the owner hire the best people he can in terms.
Was Mike your first winemaker when your dad bought the state?
Yep. Mike Gergich is the first winemaker.
That for those who are watching and those who will watch later on YouTube, Mike Gergich is like the Michael Jordan of wine, if you will.
Chardonnay, anyway.
Chardonnay, for sure. Yeah, incredible. So, and then you decided that was going to be your career. You graduated, and then you came in to work full time with your dad.
No, see, what my dad, again, the same thing. I worked for John Roleri first, then I worked for the cellar master, Aaron Mosley and guys in the cellar. So it was very much like the Navy here. I really never worked for my dad until I became his winemaker. I was the third winemaker in 1982 when I came back, because I was actually down in Paso Robles building a winery, and my dad offered me the job to come back because he did, the word nepotism, right?
Yeah.
And he was very anti-nepotism. So I actually had to go off. My first command job making wine was for another company down in Paso Robles, California, so quite a ways down south in the Central Coast. So when I came back in 1982 as the third winemaker, our second winemaker was a really important guy. He's kind of an unsung hero for Chateau Montelena. His name was Jerry Looper, and he was a winemaker who was so good that he had two wines that were entered into the Paris tasting. Neither of his wines won, so he didn't get to be super famous. But I mean, he's so good that two of his wines are in there. He was in the Chardonnay and the Cabernet, and he came out to Montelena. So because we planted the Cabernet in 72 and 74, Gergich leaves after the Paris tasting. So Jerry Looper comes in 76 when we start making the estate cab. Really important guy, great mentor to me, a really super winemaker. Many people, Heidi Barrett, my wife, winemaker, Tom Rinaldi. I mean, his pupils, his students, his people that worked with Jerry had great careers. He was a good winemaker. And he stayed until he got a partnership deal. I left after 1980 because I had, 8 years experience in wine business. So I took a command job, a little boat. It's kind of like the Navy, you got to start with a little boat and then you get to a bigger boat.
That's right.
So that's the history, yeah. And we started.
Go ahead. I think
that connection all of a sudden. Are you okay?
Yeah, me too. I'm good. For a little while, I lost you, but now you're back. I was sort of doing a segue to get into the wines. We can go to the first wine, this Riesling. Tell us a little bit about this wine.
Okay, so just to finish off the history, so we're going to plant the Cabernet. We're going to grow the grapes for 4 years. Then we're going to pick the wine and make that for 2 years. Then we're going to bottle age it a year. So it's going to be not less than 7 years before the estate starts making estate Cabernet. It actually turned out to be really closer to 10 till we could sell it. So to pay for this wine project, we made my dad, again, he learned about LA and Los Angeles, UCLA at the wine class, and the great wines of the world are German Riesling or German Alsatian Riesling, white Burgundy, red Burgundy, Pinot Noir Chardonnay, the Bordeaux, the Grand Cru of Bordeaux, and also the wines of the Rhone. These are the 4 great wines of the world. So to be successful, you model yourself after a success. So what he did, and also on the business plan, so the Riesling is a 1-year wine. You can crush it in September and start selling it the very next March, or next summer anyway. The Chardonnay is a 2-year wine. So to get revenue coming in, we started making Riesling and Chardonnay. Then the Zinfandel is a 3-year wine, and the Cabernet was going to be a 7 to 10-year project wine. So to get things going, we just went out, and Mike Gergich, of course, a very skilled guy, he worked at BV at Mondavi. He could pick out good vineyards, so we went out and we bought grapes for the first 4 years. Everything was bought, everything was purchased. We didn't have our own grapes other than Zinfandel. So we had to buy the grapes. So that's how we took off. So the Chardonnay, this is before the AVA system or anything. So we bought Chardonnay, just the best he could find, and it was Napa and Sonoma at that time. Of course, now 40 years later, they have the AVAs and everybody's all broken up. And in those days, it was pretty wide open. You could do whatever you wanted. It was great. So that's how. So now we're 40 years later. We make Riesling, Chardonnay, Cabernet, and Zinfandel, and that's what we're going to taste today.
And now you have your own grapes. Is this your fruit, or do you purchase fruit?
Well, for example, the Riesling is all purchased fruit. We've been buying, that's just 1 8-acre field. But we farm a lot now. So in Napa Valley, for all of our Napa Valley wines, the only wine we make not in Napa Valley is the Riesling. That's from Mendocino. But in Napa Valley, we operate on 260 acres. actually not 250 now, and we farm 202. So we grow a lot, but we have one grower for Chardonnay and two growers for Chardonnay that have been with us. One's been with us since 1972, the original Hannah vineyard, that's still family owned. And then we have another vineyard, Montelena, it's a smaller field, about 6 acres. So we grow about 80% of the Chardonnay, 100% of the estate wines, and then about 2/3, 60-70% of the Napa Cab. So yeah, we farm a lot. Yeah, we keeps us busy.
All right, let's get into the first one. This is a 2017 Riesling, Potter Valley, and I gotta be honest with you. I had never tried your Riesling, and I'm blown away. I have always, for some reason, associated Montelena with Cab and Chardonnays, and this is magnificent. What are you trying to convey, or what kind of wine are you seeking by making this beauty?
Okay, so again, our wines are modeled. The thing about Montelena is what we use is classic European styling, but with California flavors, and the weather, of course, is great here. So the Riesling, what we're trying to accomplish with that is, Riesling is a northern European cultivar, so we grow it way up in Mendocino County, up in the mountains. The elevation's over 1,000 feet. It's very cold out there. It's a late harvest Riesling. So what we're trying to do, in the world of wine, it's basically after an Austrian Riesling. We can't make German or Alsatian Riesling because it's just too warm in California. But in Austria, where it's quite a bit warmer, that's what the modeling is on this one. And I have some good friends in Austria who taught me some good tricks. So what we look for is, the thing about Riesling is it's bitter. When it's grown in warmer climates, it's very bitter, so often it's too sweet. So the Rieslings that you see typically from California are a little bit sweet, and they're bitter at the same time. So we're trying to get this really bright, beautiful, fruity thing. I think that we look for just really intense flavors, and then
I love the orchard fruit, the nectarines. There's a lot of citrus fruit. There's a little bit of white honey. There's some freshness, some herbs. It's got very good body, but it's very balanced, and at no time do you feel sweetness, but rather weight.
Right. To make it dry. That's one of the tricks that I learned from my Austrian buddies, is how to get it to basically pick it super ripe and just with careful winemaking, very cold fermentation, and to avoid the bitterness. It's a trick. And so again, but also we do things that are different in Riesling. We age it in oak barrels too, and try to make just a world-class wine. And we love it. It goes good with our spicy food, because out here, I don't think about Puerto Rico, it's not so much our Latino food. I think that's the Zinfandel is better at that. But I think when we're going on to our Thai and the Asian influence is what we have a lot of that out here too. But the Riesling, we love it. Patrick sent it to you actually, because I think it's good in your warmer climate.
This is the best Riesling I've had this year. We're saying hello to a couple of people who are just joining us. This is a beautiful wine. It goes for about $29 here at El Horreo de V Suárez. Delicious, incredible buy. It would go beautifully with sushi, Thai food, even some Mexican spicy food with chicken enchiladas or something. It's a very, very well-made wine. Let's get into
that's the thing. When people don't like Riesling because it's sweet, this is not sweet.
No, it's not. It's not sweet, and it's got structure, it's got body, it's got acidity that obviously kind of gives the spine of the white wines, and I'm just loving it. It's fantastic. Let's get into the Chardonnay, and just because you guys won that kind of small competition called Judgment of Paris, I want to stop here for a little bit. Tell me about your Chardonnay. This is the 2017. Tell me the history about Chardonnay in Montelena.
Okay, well, the history of Chardonnay is that we always have never varied from trying to make it like classic intense vineyard flavors. Again, same thing, using very strongly the wine structure or the shaping to be after the great white Burgundies over there, and that means they're pretty high acid and they're pretty low pH, pretty bright, crisp, intense, and we don't use too much wood. Again, the reason we won the Paris tasting is they couldn't tell the difference, and that's was it California or not. It was just a beautiful, beautiful Chardonnay, and that's what we still make. And actually, the wine now with the picking at night, and our whole cluster pressing, the equipment we have is so much better. These wines are actually better and more similar to the white Burgundy that you have, because what we can make is a great, beautiful, brilliant Chardonnay Now you can't. There's not a lot of vineyards that can do this. So a lot of people associate California Chardonnay with the big country club style Chardonnay, where there's lots of oak and malolactic and butter and richness. And that's not what we do. That stuff comes when they're aged out. When they're 7 years old, they'll do that, and they're not pre-aged. So that's what people really like about the unique character of Montelena Chardonnay is it's just brilliant, intense flavor when it's young, like the 17. And then if we had like the 12, for example, right now, then it would have all that stuff like Montellein, the richer, more opulent, the butter, or a little bit more of the yeasty, vitamin-y components. Because those are all in there. It's just this is all really strong fruit right now. But so our winemaking it's like 10% new wood. We've really never changed it that much from the one that made us famous.
Aside from global warming, in terms of style, oak treatment, is this the same wine that you've been making for 35, 40 years, this same style of Chardonnay? So we could say that something similar to this was the wine that won the judgment.
Yes, very much. Very similar to this one. The 17 was a little bit warmer, I think. The 11 was the closest we made. But in 73, it rained too. There was a little bit of dryness in that one. I mean, we picked the 73 Chardonnay. It was 100 degrees that day. We picked it in the day. The grapes got here at 5. Now we pick at 9. The grapes are cold. The wine's actually, this is technically a superior product, but it's still, it's kind of like boats or airplanes. Like you have these finesse things. They're still coming out of the same shipyard, or if you want to use horses, same stables, but it has just the refinements that they're more pure, more pristine than they've ever been. So
this wine, the word
favorite from the style.
Yeah, the key word here is balance and precision. I mean, there's everything here. You got beautiful nose of lemon oil. You have that beautiful touch of flowers, and then you got some marzipan. Love that apple. Lots of green, yellow apples happening. A nuance of very light, sort of a burnt noir, or like a little bit of butter, but very, very tame, very subtle.
Right. But it's great. That'll be in 2 or 3 more years. The butter comes from the yeast, basically. So we leave it as a subtone. Think about white wine. Every time you touch it, it's like painting a watercolor. Every time you touch it, you take away some of the white. And lots of times in your composition, you have to have a lot of white to make your composition or your background. So when you do a malolactic, it's just like washing the paper pink.
But this is a baby. I mean, this will hold easily for many years. Carol Burke is telling us that she has a bottle from 1982. So this Chardonnay here in Puerto Rico at El Horreo de Suárez is under $60. And folks, if you could get your hands on one of these bottles, you're drinking world-class white wine. It won the biggest award in wine history, you could say. This is unbelievable. In terms of pairings, what kind of food would you pair this with?
Out here in the West Coast, we don't do it with a lot of the butter, the richer sauces. Here we like it with we have our crab out here is a Dungeness crab. That's a pretty bright, briny crab. We had it with some oysters at one of our shows for our local merchants, which is it'll actually stand up to that. Here we also eat a lot of salmon out here, because we have the East Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
A lot of salmon, but that's what we use it for. But all the typical stuff. It's just a good sipping Chardonnay, sitting around. But for dinner, nothing too heavy, not a lot of butter, not a lot of richness like that.
Do you still have any bottles of the 73, or those are long?
We have 10 left. Yeah, we got 10 of them.
10 bottles?
10 bottles, yeah.
Incredible. And when was the last time you had one of those?
At the Napa Valley Wine Auction, at the 40th anniversary of the Judgment of Paris, we sold an auction lot for the wine auction. So the lot we sold was come to Chateau Montelena for a dinner for I think 8 or 12 people. I think it was 8 because it was only one bottle. And then come up to the winery and we'll have a beautiful dinner and drink a bottle of Chardonnay.
And how was it? How was it faring? Was it
full ones? You got to remember it's just plugged up with a cork, so you got to watch the fill level. So I picked out one of the very best bottles, and it was delicious. Interestingly, because it just changes color. As soon as you open the cork, it starts turning gold because it has no antioxidant left. So as soon as you pull the cork, it starts changing color. So you got to pour it really fast and sip it to get that beautiful fresh food. Then it opens up and like an old Burgundy. It's a really beautiful wine. It
is beautiful, and people who are watching and later those in YouTube. I mean, this is a historic label, Chateau Montelena Chardonnay. Get your hands at it and get them. This is from El Horreo de Suárez, of course. Now let's get into the reds, Bo. This is incredible. I love this Zinfandel. Totally love this wine. I didn't know you guys made Zinfandel, to be honest with you. Tell me about what's behind this bottle.
Well, again, we started with Zinfandel in '72. We are from California. We love Zinfandel. People talk about the global warming because back in the old really bad droughts and the dry years, the 70s, the droughts were worse and it was really hot. Zinfandel, we basically, on the 100-acre estate, we could grow Cabernet in every block. But some of the soil is actually, it would be okay Cabernet, but it makes amazing Zinfandel. So being family owned, we don't have to just make the most money out of our land that we can. We don't ask the ground to do something it can't do. Working with the land, you can't ask the ground to grow great cab in every single piece of dirt. It's just because some of the dirt is really rich, it's going to have great big vines. So that's where we plant the Zin. So basically where we grow the Zinfandel, the cab would be okay, but the Zinfandel is magnificent. So it's kind of an art project where you have to remember winemaking is of art, science, and farming. And the farming says you can make better, Zinfandel than Cabernet with this piece of ground that makes Zinfandel. But it's not all about.
It's an incredibly sexy, spicy, beautiful nose with notes of sweet pepper. You have some I don't know if it's spice, cinnamon, and then you have some red crunchy fruit, and there's this exuberance. But it smells like tropical fruits, but it's a red wine. I find some papaya, some tropical fruits. Is it normal, or am I really off the chart here?
No, it's the same as like when you're working in the Rhone, or the winemaking on this wine is to get that. What we want is a big billowy bowl full of fruit in the nose and the palate. It's expansive, and then it just fades away to this lovely flavor. This is the wine I think would be like with the Puerto Rican stuff. The guys down there, you get your arroz and pollo and all that kind of whatever you guys are going to have with this one. It'd be awesome because this is one our wine that I drink with when we're eating Mexican food or spicy food here. We always, me, my kids, my wife, we go to the Zinfandel all the time when we're having barbacoa or anything like that.
We in Puerto Rico eat a lot of blood sausage and pig, pork, roasted pork for Christmas. So this is a delicious.
I think
delicious wine. This at El Horreo goes for $45. Unbelievable Zinfandel, one of the best I've had this year as well. Excellent lineup so far. All right, let's get into the Cabernets. You guys are very well known for your cabs. Tell me a little bit about the 2017 Cabernet.
2017 was this is where we have to work on finesse. When you taste this one, think about finesse in this wine. The 17 was actually an extremely hot vintage, and a lot of the Napa Cab 17 are real powerhouses, high alcohol, but we didn't make that. We make it right there at 14, and it's really an elegant wine. This is, again, that this is the only one it's planted at 10% Merlot, so it is a Bordeaux blend. But this is our California-style cab where it doesn't have a lot of huge tannin, just it's delicious, full of mostly berry flavors on them.
Is it a bit backwards? I mean, because nowadays, after a decade or so where you had, this wines that were overblown, saturated, chunky, some wineries never, I guess, caught that bug of making, super extracted, concentrated wines, but remain very steady and making wines in a classical way. I feel that Montelena has always been making very classical wines that are tamed down, not scaled up in alcohol, and they feel fresh, minty. What I'm getting here in the nose is beautiful mint, cassis, the berry notes, a little bit of pepper as well, and not a bombastic wine.
No, we've never. Again, that's Montelena's niche in the market is we make table wine. We make all of our wines are designed to go with food, not to blow away critics. When you're talking about the big, chunky, super massives, that was in the late Parker years, kind of like the muscle car period in cars. You like the bigger, noisier cars. They didn't handle well, but they made a lot of noise, and they went fast in a straight line. They didn't stop good or turn good, but they made a lot of noise and looked cool. And that's what those wines were. They didn't age well. So, but we've never really strayed. Again, as I said, I don't want to be repetitive, but our niche in the marketplace is classic styling, which is really at 14. So making the monsters, we just never went down that road. I mean, our vineyards, we could have made massive wines too, but that's like, I want people to enjoy the wine. It's like, I don't want it to be like, aquarium wine where you go in your cellar and you look at it, show your friends, I collect these bottles. I want it to be that you can't not drink it. That's what, especially this wine is really designed for people to go in their cellar or to a steakhouse and say, yeah, this is a great value. It has all the quality of Chateau Montelena, and we grow this one. It's actually, and it's not like the seconds of the estate Cabernet. This wine is when the vineyard is planted, or even the vineyard even before planted, when the vineyard is designed, it's like, this is going to be a Navicap block, and we're going to take 4 or 5 tons an acre as opposed to 1 day. So we put it in our richer soils, and then we, all the farming and everything, because when you're making wine, even when you're laying out the vineyard or picking what wine you're going to say, you're still winemaking in the vineyard when you're thinking about it. And that's what we do with this one. It's like, and so when we plant the Merlot, we grow the Merlot actually in the southern Napa Valley. The rest of it's all Calistoga. But that really has the intensity of mountain fruit, but then the softness of the valley floor fruit. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very balanced. It's definitely a gastronomic wine, and your labels could command, because of the name, the reputation, very hefty prices. This is $67 here in Puerto Rico, which is a very reasonable price for a delicious wine. And what I love about this wine is that it feels fresh. It's not this chunky wine, but at the same time, it has the beautiful structure and something that really, strikes me in a positive way is that it has vibrant acidity. Red wines to me also need good amounts of acidity and freshness. And the acidity here is incredible. You tend to say acidity for white wines, but I love acidity in Cabernets, like when they're made in the sort of Corazon style, elegant style. I love this wine right here. Lovely acidity.
Yeah. No, the balance is, that's when you're having a food wine or a country club wine. We definitely make food wine. And so you think about this one, okay, let's just go simple, steak frites. Yeah, have a nice piece of steak. And I think this one would go good with the pork stuff too,
And you get some herbs,
You have that with the Chile and Cabernet isn't quite as good as the Chile with the Zinfandel. Chile and Cabernet, when you have the Chile and the Cabernet, it will accentuate the cedar tones or the pepperiness of the Cab. And if you like that, that's good. But yeah, when you have in Chile with this one, it will be more peppery. So they they activate each other. That might be fun for people to actually try that and see. When you taste this one, Chile, no Chile, it would be good.
Okay, well, good to know. All right, let's get into the last wine, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and then we're done. You've given me 30 minutes of your time, which I really appreciate. So let's get into this wine, the Chateau Montelena, the estate wine, Montelena Estate. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Okay, well, so that's what the wine we originally set out to do, and actually by the time the movie Bottle Shop came out, we became known as the Estate Cabernet House. That was all through the Parker era, this is our big gun. And that is the one that he really loved of our wines. He never really liked our style of Chardonnay. He wanted the bigger Chardonnays. But so the Cabernet, this is exactly what we grow on the estate here, right out from the winery. It's right in front of the winery. It's the vineyards. It's a very unique spot. Napa Valley really runs on 2 styles of Cabernet, the mountain vineyards and the valley floor vineyards. So we have Diamond Mountain, Howell Mountain, Spring Mountain. And then we have the valley floor, St. Helena, Yountville, Rutherford, Oakville. And Calistoga is where we are. It's in the perfect spot where we have all 3 of the soil types that make Napa Valley and the weather and stuff. So basically it's a magic spot for Cabernet. And that's why we really like. So this is a single vineyard wine. It's just from the 100 acres here at the estate. And it's a really unique spot because we pick Cabernet here from anywhere from 4 weeks to a month on only 100 acres. So we have a very diversified soil. So we really work hard on this wine to say what this land did in that particular
It's spectacular. I mean, it's 8 years old, but it feels very fresh. It feels like a very new wine. It's 13.8% alcohol. I love that. You're going for a very elegant style here.
And 12 was actually a really good year, So yeah, 13.8. That's our target is 14. So we, probably went into barrels of 14.1. In our caves, the alcohol actually drifts down about 0.1 to 0.2 per year. So we really want it to be 14 alcohol again, to be a really good, beautiful classic style Cabernet.
And the nose is a symphony of black cherry and this menthol mint freshness, incredible notes of just this cassis, graphite, and then some herbs. It's not opulent. It's impressive without being explosive. And in terms of cellar age, somebody was asking where to buy this wine here in Puerto Rico. You get it at Horreo de V Suárez. You can put it away for 2 or 3 decades easily, right?
Oh yeah, it's they last. They go. What we say is here, they go in a stationary orbit. They just go out there and they really don't move because the winemaking is so much better than it was 3 years ago. They'll age as long as any wine on the planet ever made. But the fruit stays in them because we're having a 12 now. That's. What's that, 8 years ago? But seriously, we actually are selling. We also have a library release program where we're selling the 16 and the 2006. So we actually age the wines for over 10 years here at the winery, and then we sell it again. We age it for people. But yeah, no, our Cabernet is designed to age. That's one of my dad's original mantras was a great wine has to age. And Chardonnay, even this Riesling, it's good one too. So yeah, so we do. But there's one thing I wanted to tell you at the beginning that I did. We'll wrap it up. There's one family thing you guys got to kick out quickly.
Yeah, this wine is incredible. It at the end has this cleansing note. It's not bitter, but you get this sort of dark chocolate shavings.
Cabernet especially at this price, so it's got to have a lot of. It's got to give and give and give. And how we approach Cabernet is just keep packing as much good stuff in that bottle as you can. So when they're younger, this is the 12, and now it's aged down. Now we're selling the 2016 now, and it's just like this, intense, really strong, beautiful, bright wine. But the Cab now with this is just showing how the wine is aged, just a little bit aged, so intense fruit, but still really bright. And long, lush.
I need to buy some of the 13, which is the birth year of my son, my only son. So I'm putting away wines for him and for him in the future, and hopefully to drink with him if I'm still around. 2013 was an excellent vintage as well, right?
Yeah, 13 was the first year of the droughty vintages. So the 14 and 15 was when we really had no rain, but 13 is pretty. It was very hot, very very dry, very concentrated, very compact. You'll like it. But again, we do the same thing. We pick early off the hillsides and later off the valley floor. So we do balance. For us, balance is everything. There's the German term is Runde, round, where everything's got to be balanced. So if you have big alcohol, then everything's got to be big. If you have low alcohol, then everything's got to be toned down. So again, it's the same thing as balance and balance and balance.
Is this 100% Cab, Bo?
There's usually a little bit of Cabernet Franc in there, but you won't detect it anymore. Now, we put the Cabernet Franc here for when the wine is first released. Our Cabernet Franc is different in Calistoga than Bordeaux. That it has a very high blueberry. It's all top note and front palate. So we usually put in about 1%, but it's 100% Cabernet. If you know,
it's amazing. It's amazing.
We don't get Petit Verdot till really the last 3 to 4 years where we started looking at that, and even that's in the low 1-2% kind of range.
This has been amazing wines. Let me do 2 or 3 questions, and then we do a wrap. What do you drink for fun? What's in your cellar aside from your own wines and aside from the wines you probably know everybody in Napa and in California? from other parts of the world. What do you drink when you're not drinking California?
Well, a lot of our ex-Montelena guys have moved off to Oregon and Washington. Like, I have my friend Ron Souls, but, we don't really grow good Pinot down here. So I get my buddies up that have moved to Oregon. They send me really great bottles of Pinot Noir for fun. Over in Lodi, for the cheaper stuff, they have some good Albareños and stuff like that. So really, I'm kind of like, you go to the art gallery and some stuff you like. So I tend to like the classic stuff more, the stuff that's just a mess. I don't kind of like that. So I'm kind of an omnivore, whatever that's well executed. So for fun, we drink wines from other regions for the most part, see how they're doing.
Do you drink wine from Europe, South America?
We drink wine from Europe sometimes, not so much. South America, not so much. I should do more. It's just that here you can only drink so much wine. It's that taste it. But yeah, I taste wine from everywhere that I can, and usually people send us bottles from all around. My friends in Austria and stuff like that from drinking wines. I like Austrian wines. And when I go out to restaurants or when I travel, that's why I really rely upon the somm. Say, hey, what do you got that's really cool and interesting and well executed, and that And often they won't sell you the most expensive bottle they have. It's like something that's really good. Like I really like Priorato, for example.
Yeah, Priorato is amazing. Yeah, they're really great wines. Is there a wine or a wine grape that you have tried time and time again and it has been elusive for you? Any kind of grape that you've tried to make and it hasn't happened yet? Really, Pinot? Why is that? Why is it that such an account?
In California, it has this one smell that I do not like. It's like some people can eat chivo, I can't eat chivo.
Okay, and what's that smell that you don't like about Pinot?
Pinot, the joke in my family, my daughter wrote a joke. It's like, when you have a bottle of ketchup and that little bit of watery stuff comes out at the beginning before the ketchup comes out, what do you call that? Pinot Noir.
She says that? Okay, but, Pinot. And in terms of Montelena, will you guys stay with the portfolio you have, or are you venturing out on new labels? Are you creating something new?
Well, so at Montelena, probably not. We're very traditional, old chateau. But with Heidi, my wife, my daughter, we have other projects that I do with my family. My daughter Chelsea, my wife Heidi. We make wine, and so we're working with. The vineyard I just planted this year is Grenache in the rocks.
Grenache.
Almost half acre. It just bakes in the sun. It fries. Just nothing but rocks. And I didn't put Cabernet up there. I put Grenache in there. So
that's beautiful, Bo. Beautiful, beautiful wines. Thank you for all you've done for wine lovers, for the industry. I mean, you're an inspiration. Thank you for giving me 42 minutes of your life. Let me review the wines with you. And thank Horreo de V Suárez and your representatives, Patrick and Carol Burke. This is a beautiful Riesling. It goes for about $29 at Horreo de V Suárez. Probably, or the best Riesling I've had this year. I was really, really surprised by how beautiful it is. Beautiful, beautiful wine. The second wine we had, an incredible Chardonnay full of precision, balance, elegance, finesse, acidity, and delicious, bright, clean, pure fruit. Then, to me, a real winner is a Zinfandel. I fell in love with this wine. This is a very juicy, this with a burger, this with barbecue, with a lechon in Navidad here in Puerto Rico is mind-blowing. And it's $44, but it's such a delicious wine. You cannot have just one glass. You will not be able to have just one. Then this is a great buy in terms of, quality vis-a-vis its price. It's about $60, and it's a Cabernet Sauvignon from a world-renowned winery, Chateau Montelena, of course. And then this is, this can rival the best wines from anywhere in the world. The Chateau Montelena, the estate Cabernet Sauvignon, delicious wine. Bo, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully you... What?
Es importante por la gente de Puerto Rico que conoce Esta buenería es una familia nomás y mi hijo es casada boricua.
¿Quién es casado con una boricua? Your son?
Ya, mi nuera y nieta son boricuas.
Really? Your son is married to a Puerto Rican?
That's right.
That's incredible.
It is.
Let's wrap with that. Puerto Rico. So you've been here a couple of times. What do you make of the market down here? Like the people you've met, collectors, lots of interest for wine culture?
Yeah, it was just, I thought it was just a magnificent surprise that the wine culture was there because a little bit of the Spanish influence of people like wine, that it wasn't really, it was kind of like Colombia or any other places that Patrick has taken. It's like the wine culture was very good, and it was really, really a beautiful, wonderful surprise. I just thought it was so awesome, and I can't wait to come back. I had so much fun down there, and I'm looking forward.
We'll be waiting for you, sir. I'm gonna toast with you. This is an honor to raise my glass with Bo Barrett hitting the screen here. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. May you live to 200 years old. Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Buenas noches. Adiós.
Buenas noches. See you. Bye-bye.